Hey, everybody, it's Dr. Meri Crouley, and I have a very exciting guest, Michael Jaco, who actually I really honor him for what he's done, not only serving the country through being part of the special forces, what he's done, really risking his life, many exciting stories that he has throughout the years, but also he's in the fight for freedom. And along with many other people that I've interviewed, like Scott McKay and Rodriguez and Kathy O'Brien, and so many patriot that we believe that it's an appointed time that things are going to shift. And so today's program is sponsored by Exodus Strong. Let's roll that commercial, please.
Feeling tired even after a full night of sleep? You're not alone. Millions struggle with low energy, brain fog, and inflammation every day. And it's not your fault. The modern world wears down your mind, body, and spirit. But what if there was a natural way to feel energized again? Meet Exodus, a breakthrough supplement powered by 7 biblical ingredients and enhanced by the modern science of molecular hydrogen. This unique formula helps restore your energy, reduce inflammation, and renew your vitality naturally. Real people are already seeing the difference. Exodus Strong has been a game changer for me. After just a week, I noticed better sleep, improved focus, and no more afternoon crashes. Go from fatigue to vitality with Exodus. Visit exodusstrong.com/MERI and start your journey today.
Yeah, so exodusstrong.com/Meri, MERI, right in the middle of America. So anyway, it will help you. It really does work. I use it a lot. And I really, instead of drinking coffee, I take Exodus Strong. So anyway, so welcome, Mike. It's good to have you back. It was great seeing you a few weeks ago at the event at the Ahern Hotel. That was an amazing event. A lot of truth tellers. I know you and Tracy Joe were there. I saw Scott McKay, Lewis Herms, so many people that are fighting the good fight. That was a pretty amazing event. I had just done my 8th Open the Heavens event, in May 8th and 9th there. And Scott McKay and Lewis and Kathy were all part of that event. But we're doing our 9th one coming up in Branson on October 2nd and 3rd. We'll talk about that, in a little while, but it's in the heartland of America. So you guys are going to come because we're seeing some amazing thing with God opening these portals up over regions. Because Michael, as you know, we're in a spiritual battle. And we're seeing the fight even just intensify. And so we've had so many different things, news about Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and this and that. So why don't we just start out with that briefly, because that's kind of on, did he get taken out by an energy weapon? Was it a heart attack? Did he get poisoned? Did he just die of a natural heart attack? And Mitch McConnell, some really intense things. And I know you had a situation that you actually had a scenario that was fairly scary, that had to do along those realms that I want to talk about as well. But regards to Lindsey Graham, what is your take on what's going on now with Lindsey and what happened with him?
I think his usefulness for the deep state was over, and they took him out. And we're going to see a lot more of that. Mitch McConnell, proof of life. They had a fake picture of him with his wife. He's in a hospital bed with his jeans on. There's a lot of inconsistencies in that picture. But if he does come back out, it's probably going to be a clone, because I think I agree with some other people that said that he was basically taken out. So I said that early on. We haven't seen him. No proof of life. He's probably gone.
Well, now they're having Lindsey Graham's sister. Isn't that what she's stepping into his place now? Is that what I just heard?
Oh yeah, Lindsey Graham's. Yeah, definitely. So McConnell, he's out of there. Lindsey Graham, he's out of there. Who's going to be next? So there's interesting dates of when these deep state guys, they like to play with the numbers and so forth. So all kind of interesting dates on that. When he departed, 7/11, and all these lots of other things. She changed her first name so that it would be a certain numerological number that fit. their
Who
program.
changed her name?
Uh, his sister. So I guess
okay.
she changed it from an E to an I, and that changed the numbering on her name. So there's lots of interesting things that happened with that. The date that he died. He came back from Ukraine. He was there for a day. Russia, I guess, was following him and blew up the drone factory that he was at right after he left. And he flew back, talked to President Trump, and then like 5 or 6 hours later, he's gone. So it's very suspect.
Well, now also Lindsey Graham was very much involved with McCain.
Mm-hmm.
And McCain, as a lot of people know, at his funeral, the flag was wrinkled.
Yep.
Which signifies a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to look and see what Lindsey Graham's
flag. I think pretty surely it's going to be wrinkled, and that'll be another indicator that he was a traitor. Definitely a traitor. He spent 33 years, I think, with the military, 4 years active, and then reserve as a JAG officer. But I give him credit for serving the military, but his service to the country, he was always pushing wars. He's not going to be missed.
Well, as people know, these deep state people, they're constantly using the military industrial complex. I think what Obama, 22 different invasions or something to that extent, where President Trump, for the most part, didn't want to go into Iran, but it was almost like they had to. I was in Israel when the war broke out.
Wow.
Just on Purim, actually, the Feast of Purim. I had been to Israel 8 times. I hadn't been there in 13 years, and God told me to go. And we went there to do some filming, but also this opening portals, people kind of wonder, well, what is that? And this, Mike, because you and Tracy Joe, are believers, and you understand, the good and bad, the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of darkness, Satan, Lucifer, his angels. And that's what these deep state people have done. They've used these children, literally the trafficking is their fuel. And so it's being exposed on a massive level. But, when I was over there, like a Feast of Purim, all of a sudden I started hearing the bombs, the alarms, and we were there for 22 days. I had to get out through Jordan.
Wow.
But God got us out. And you've been in bomb shelters, I'm sure, many times. Have you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I was, a lot of times I was in, there was no bomb shelters and bombs were going off. So shots being fired, RPGs, all kind of crazy stuff. Yeah.
Well, and people don't understand, the bomb shelters, if a missile hits your bomb shelter, you're toast. I mean, it's the only thing it protects you from is shrapnel that comes from the dome, when they literally break up these missiles or whatever are coming, it literally, these shrapnel can be very large, as
Sure.
well as the windows can shatter the glass, things like that. That's what it's really to protect you from, is that. But whether people like Israel or not, one thing I'm there is about the land, the people. Jesus walked in that land, and Jesus loved the people. I mean, God loves Israel. He loves the people of Iran. He loves the Middle East. He loves all of them. He doesn't love war. He hates war. So, there's been a lot of propaganda against Israel too. I know a lot of people, there's 100,000 soldiers over in the IDF right now. And one of Chaim Malespin, his father-in-law is Dean Bai, who has the Aliyah Return Center. So they help Jews make Aliyah to return to the land in Israel. But his son-in-law literally is blowing up tunnels, not only in the Gaza area, but also now in Lebanon. Wow. And I've asked him, I said, listen, is there genocide going over there? What's happening? Because he is also a Christian. He's a believer in Jesus. But there's a lot of stuff that Candace Owens is putting out, and the same with Tucker Carlson, that they're blowing up these kids. And now there might be some bad actors. I'm not saying that there isn't, but I was there in 2005 when actually the Gaza Strip was given up. Literally the roadmap to peace with Ariel Sharon, Condoleezza Rice, literally Secretary of State, and they gave it up. But then what happens? Sharon goes into a coma, and he couldn't give up any more land. He was in a coma, and then he died. So the Jewish people willingly gave up that land, and it was their most fertile land in most of Israel. So people don't remember that. What do you know about Israel?
Haven't actually been there, unfortunately. I'd love to go at some point. Been all around it. I was in Beirut. I was in Lebanon, right close to the border. But I got to see, what was going on there all around Libya, all around Afghanistan, Iraq. I've been in that region, and it's Iran that's causing all the problems. They're the ones that foment the different groups and so forth. I've been in Yemen, so Hezbollah in Lebanon, beautiful churches. I mean, we're talking cathedrals are 1,000 years old. I was there during Christmas. It was the most beautiful place I've ever been to during Christmas. The church bells, everything, Christmas lights. They really celebrate it nice. But in the Muslim areas, it's ghetto. Complete ghetto. And if it's next to a Christian church, cathedrals, that church is going to burn. I saw a lot of burned out churches next to Muslim ghettos. So it's a mess. So with Israel going in, I'm like, yeah, clean them out. Yeah. So they're a mess. And they're there to take over, just like I think, unfortunately the Muslims are going to try and take over Europe and America.
Well, we've seen what's happened, when they started open the countries up, England, I've been to England many times, and it's totally changed because these people come in, they open the borders, and we love the people that are Muslim. There's a lot of good Muslims, but there's a lot of ones that are really the ones that really want to take over the country. The Quran is not a peaceful book. Muhammad, and people can get angry if they want, but really was a pedophile. And a lot of things that they do, they just want to basically dominate and take control. That's why, I have friends as missionaries in other countries, in the Congo and different parts of the world, and India and Pakistan. And they come in and they literally burn down the churches. They kill many of the pastors. Unbelievable stories that they don't understand, where the Christians, not that there's not some bad people actually that say they're Christians as well. That's why Jesus said, you'll know them by their fruits.
Yes.
So Lebanon used to be a Christian nation, and slowly the Muslims started coming in, and then they have like 6, 7, 8 kids, where like a lot of people in America, what is it now? The stat, like 2 children or less. So they're overpopulating people. And in England alone, Mike, there's 250,000 girls that have been raped.
Yeah.
You heard about that, right?
Yeah, I do. I've talked about it as well. It is one of those things that the Muslims think they are, Allah doesn't care. If they're not Muslim, then they can do whatever they want. Now they do this to Muslim women as well. If a Muslim woman, depending on where you're at in the Muslim realms, if you're not wearing hijab or burqa, whatever, you're fair game for rape as well, because you're not you're not sacred, so they can do whatever they want. So I've seen this all over the world. It's very frustrating. Yes, the Muslim people, for the most part, are beautiful people, just like anywhere else in the world. But it seems like this small percentage, take control. They dumb down their population, keep their population fairly ignorant. They don't get very good educations. If they go to higher education, they're basically learning more about Islam, not things that are useful for them to be successful in life. And they complain about this, even in Kuwait and other areas where there's a lot of money, and no one works. They bring in other people to work, and everybody's driving around in Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and they're horrible drivers. They're always wrecking, but it's okay. They'll get another one. So the government pays every one of their citizens a tremendous salary. It's like $100,000 a year because they make so much money on oil revenue and so forth. So they just bring in slaves, pretty much, Filipinos do the construction work, and the Filipinos to do the maid work and taking care of the kids and so forth. And they literally treat them like slaves. It is a very corrupt culture, unfortunately, in a lot of cases. But yes, they can be very good, very, very beautiful people in a lot of ways. But there are some problems.
Well, and what we're seeing now, like different parts in Dearborn, Michigan, you're seeing different areas in Texas. I know Chris Burgard, my friend, and I'm sure you know Chris, just came out with a movie. I think what was it called, about the Alamo? Anyway, he showed a clip of it at the Fraudster event. But we're seeing parts of places that they literally target and say that we're going to use this as a test and go in there and see how far we can get. And that's why it's important we rise up, everybody. And even the Open the Heavens event that God spoke to me May 2nd, 2020, Mike, we're in California, the first state that shut down. Gavin Newsom shut down California. And I woke up one morning on May 2nd, it was a Saturday in 2020, and I heard the voice of God, which speaks to you in your thoughts. Some people think people are crazy that hear God, but he speaks to all of us. Yeah. It's a still small voice. And I heard him say these words, Mike. He said, "We won't shut up until you open the heavens." And he told me to do 7 baptisms along the western seaboard of the United States, starting at Pirates Cove in Corona del Mar, right next to Newport Beach, where the whole Jesus movement broke out. And God touched this radical hippie evangelist and this conservative pastor, and it broke out into a movement because it's like Lonnie Frisbee, who was the catalyst for that with Pastor Chuck Smith, said, in the church for so long is expecting a certain mold of what a Christian should look like, what a Christian should say, and what a Christian should be. But God is blowing everybody's minds because he's saving the hippies, and nobody thought a hippie could be saved. And so God uses people that we wouldn't think. Lonnie died in 1993. He'd been molested at 8 years old by a 17-year-old boy babysitter in 1957, because he was born in 49, and he tried to tell his mom and stepdad. They didn't believe him. So when you hear like people like Kathy O'Brien, like her own father, like sold her into, it was like kind of a family that had been raised in this familial trafficking. It's like people can't even wrap their mind around this stuff, Mike, let alone, they believe it's happening in America. But that's why they opened the borders up. Yeah. And 425,000 of these kids were missing, but there was many more than that. Yeah. And now ICE is fine. I think they found 125,000 of them. Yeah. So what do you know about the trafficking thing? I know you know a lot of stuff, but I'm just going down the trail that I feel God's leading me down right now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. I was looking at that today, actually. I posted on my X account, but there were congressional testimonies and so forth going on. And yes, 125 have been found out of 425 that came across the border. Who was pushing that? It's the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party, I think I've said this for quite some time, it's going to go bye-bye. And I always thought they were just going to get voted out, but they might get taken out and executed because they're responsible for all those children. And they talked about how some of these, unfortunately, these girls are being held in places where they're raped like 7 to 20 times a day, over and over and over again, every single day. No 8 to 12 or 5 to 8 or whatever. No holidays, every single day. It's incredible. And yeah, they're responsible for this. We tried to stop this. We called it out. We couldn't stop it, and now they're going to have to pay for it.
Well, and Troy Brewer is one of the speakers at my event in Branson, and he was on Fox, I think a national affiliate, and he was asked at the end by the news broadcaster and said, how can this be stopped? And he looked at him and he said, what's the cause of this? And he point blank said pornography. And he basically said it goes from, the babysitter to the baby, because nobody ever thinks that who would ever be attracted to a baby or a 3 or 4 year old. And why would males in America, because that my Freedom Crime movie is not about, I went to Thailand, Mike, in 2017 with a videographer. I got some great footage in Bangkok and Pattaya. They have a 3-mile long walking street that literally has these bars and these girls that are outside, like all in like little maybe sailor outfits, or they're all dressed the same. And it's not legal in Thailand to trafficking, but they pretty much get these guys to come in there, and then they pick a girl and then they go to their hotel. But the government kind of looks away. But we found some amazing footage. But when I got back from Thailand, I heard God say to me, I don't want you to do this movie about Thailand. I wanted you to see, because it's the #1 sex tourist destination in the world. People from America, Europe, Australia, all over the country, Canada, going to Thailand. But God said it's about America. So when I went down the rabbit hole, I didn't know what MK Ultra was. I didn't know any of this stuff, even though I knew a lot. And I was like, what? I interviewed Liz Crokin and I went, what's MK Ultra? I mean, Operation Paperclip. The Nazis came over to America in the 50s. They CIA, mind control, dissociative identity disorder, all this stuff. And then the NASA program. And it was all like run by an agenda. And so it's like people have been so mind controlled from what we've been watching for so long that they just kind of didn't believe it. But now I think people are waking up. Kathy O'Brien was going to be speaking at the MK Ultra hearings.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, Kelly, her daughter, was on the porch. They have a nice compound that Mark Phillips, her husband, built. He rescued her out of trafficking. She was getting ready to be taken to Bohemian Grove to be sacrificed, so to speak. And out of nowhere, Mike, this tornado comes down and literally 38 trees falls on her property and wipes out the roads. I mean, house is still standing, but it had to be weather technology that did that.
Yeah.
What do you know about some of this stuff, Mike?
Oh yeah, I know a lot about it. I've seen it in action and so forth. In the Mockingbird media, I heard about, like you're talking about MK Ultra, and I heard about the Mockingbird media. They had testimony, and the CIA admitted, yeah, we do Mockingbird media. So I'm in the CIA. I see them using Mockingbird media overseas, and I'm a security guy. I'm just like watching, and I'm like, good thing they don't do that in America, because I just looked at the people around there. I was like, how can they not see this? And I realized, like I was talking about earlier, they keep them pretty dumbed down. And then I was like, started looking at our news. I was like, oh, they're just more sophisticated because they're a little bit more educated. So they're doing it to us too. Yeah, I know a lot about that. And the weather manipulation, we've seen it, them burning cities, directed energy weapons. Recently in LA and Malibu, and then of course Lahaina. It's how do they get away with this? How do they get these technologies and so forth? HARP, they steer storms with them, just like you're talking about. So they can do these storm cells. They can spin them up and put them wherever they want them. And there's no doubt that Kathy's house was targeted, because all around her, hardly anybody was affected. So it was like her house got hammered and no damage pretty much whatsoever all around her. So yeah, it's amazing. So then I started doing the research on that, and I started seeing that, yeah, these cells can be triggered and directed and focused on one area, just like they did with Kathy. And they've been doing that in a lot of areas now.
Yeah. Well, we saw what happened with that flood, like up in the North Carolina regions. They've never had any type of literally wiping out whole cities, small cities. I mean, we don't even know how many people have been been killed.
Yeah.
Bodies, unbelievable. But going back into this deep state things that they have in particular, now I want to talk about the story with some of these weapons, like Lindsey Graham, fairly probably easy than taken out that way, just like Andrew Breitbart.
Yeah.
Talk about that. When did he pass away? Like, I remember I interviewed somebody, and they said, yeah, Andrew Breitbart was at Dr. Jane Ruby. I was interviewing her, and she said she was at one of his last events that he had everybody hold up their phone. He said, you're all journalists. He said, you all now have to use this, and you're the news now. And it was like, what year did Andrew Breitbart die? He was just on the street, and I think he was supposed to meet somebody, and then I think it was a weapon that they used on him.
Yeah, and they've used that weapon on me as well. Fortunately, it wasn't successful on me. It's an energy weapon. All of our organs have a certain frequency, so they can get the frequency of your heart or any organ really, and send a negative energy at it to harm it, to try and shut it down. For me, I kept feeling like my heart was seizing up. And then, because I have really good control of my body, I was able to resist it. But the helicopter was flying right next to me, and then it would fly up and down Pacific Crest Trail where I was, making sure that I was the only one there. And it just kept coming back over and over again and hitting me over and over again.
Where were you again? What part of the world?
I was in California, the Northern California area at that time, and I was on a mountainside, and it was like the trail was like right on a cliff type thing. And if I had stepped if it had taken me out, because there's a very narrow trail, so mountainside up one side and then a ravine down the other, they picked a perfect spot to take me out. So it was hitting me, and I was like, I've heard about this thing, and I could hear the helicopter coming. You and I have that intuitive thing. So I was like, they're coming for me, because I had my phone off for well over like 2 months on the trail. So I was like, I'm pretty much, they're not messing with me, so I guess I'm good. So I turned it on like the day before to take some pictures and put it on my Facebook, whatever. And then I hear the helicopter coming. It's like, I should turn that phone on. And then it came up, and it was no markings on it, no lights. And the cockpit, it was one of those little birds, MH6. And it had, you couldn't see into the cockpit. They had it, mirrored. So I was like, I was looking where the cockpit was. I mean, it was like right outside my deck. That's how close it was. It was hovering right next to me. I was like, what's it doing? And then I could feel my heart go. I was like, trying to kill me. And I was like, resisted. And like I said, it went up and down the trail, because I was way ahead of everybody else on the Pacific Crest Trail. I'm a hiker. I just moved out. Thousands of people do that every year, but I start early and I passed everybody. So I was probably about several days or a week ahead of the next person. So they're just making sure the trail was clear so they can try and take me out. And like I said, if they had been successful, I would have fallen down into the ravine, and no one would have known. I would have disappeared. So they did that like 4 times. And then I got to the end of this ravine area, and I ran into the woods. There was a woody area, and I disappeared myself, went Navy SEAL mode, and it kept hovering. It came back, and it didn't see me anymore. So it started hovering where they figured maybe I probably ran, and they couldn't find me. They kept hovering. I thought they're hovering. It seemed like they were hovering right over me a couple of times. I was like, oh, did they see me? But I didn't move. I know how to do that. And then they just left. And then from that point on, I stayed off the trail for about 2 or 3 days. I just walked, parallel to it, and came back on the trail, and just never. What
year was that?
That was probably 90, probably 98, 99, somewhere around in there.
Yeah, one of my friends, Marilyn, her husband Pat, did the movie The Clinton Chronicles, and this was in the 90s when he was still the president. And I just listened to Kathy O'Brien's book, Transformation, like unbelievable, the stuff she went through with Cheney and Bushes. And people wouldn't even believe that people do this kind of stuff. That's how evil that they are. High level people in government, in business, and in entertainment in Hollywood. And so I know that you just interviewed Craig Lund, who I've interviewed him too. He was on Nino's show, and Craig Lund, wrote that book, as you know, Silicon Satan, and it was kind of a faction book. It was true, but he had to use kind of fictitious names and characters because he talked about, Larry Ellison and Oracle, and how these people don't get to these high levels and positions typically in power unless they bow to some region. And now Ellison's kids are, I think they just bought Paramount or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just bought Paramount. So you guys, we're in a spiritual war, but we've already won. Jesus already said it is finished. So now we need to take authority and move and take action, because we have to believe that we can win, and we use the power of prayer, but just not sitting around. We have to take action. And that's why I honor Mike and many of these ones, Kathy O'Brien, Scott McKay, so many of these guys that are doing something for the kingdom. So anyway, Nino, he was at, of course, one of the hosts of Juan's event, the MC. He had an issue with something that happened to him, and he saw these helicopters flying around. When did that happen?
I guess that's just before he had the incident where he was passing out in the middle of the night. He says got up a couple times to go to the bathroom. First time, he falls down, passes out, gets back up, gets back in bed. Didn't really think about anything about it. Second time, he was coming back to bed and he passed out, and his partner basically got up and said, "What's going on?" And so she calls the the EMTs, and they come and they take him to the hospital. I asked him, I said, "Do you think they hit you?" And he says, "Nah, I took this supplement, the night before, and it could have been that did it." So you don't know, because that's the way these are. They can slip some kind of toxin in that'll take you out over time. My buddy Scott Bennett, that I did a lot of shows.
Yeah, I know Scott.
Yeah, he got pancreatic cancer, which when you find out you have jaundice or whatever. Somebody was telling me, they told him at an event they saw jaundice in his eyes, and he's like, "Hey, you got yellow in your eyes. You need to go get checked out." So he went and got checked out. Sure enough, he had, unfortunately, pancreatic cancer, which a lot of times can come from being exposed to uranium. And he had spent some time over in Russia, but I don't think the Russians would have taken him out, because he was doing shows for RT, Russian TV, and so I don't think they would have targeted him. But he was talking about how Russians are Christians just like us, and the Ukrainians are Nazi, they Satanist. So the Russians, identify with our values way more than Ukrainians, but we're backing Ukrainians. So he's trying to make a point about that, and I think that's probably why they took him out. That's my thoughts, anyway.
Well, I've interviewed Scott many times. In fact, he was at my second Open Heavens in Chicago. Juan was there, Sheila Holm, different ones. But yeah, Scott was a good brother. And the thing about Putin has pretty much outlawed children being adopted out of Russia, because a lot of people were being adopting these kids. And Putin actually is more Christian. They've been given a bad rap, but the intel that I know about Russia, they're actually have really turned a lot of the corners. They're actually more Christian than some places in the world, including America. They get attacked a lot in the media. So,
yeah. Well, Ukraine is high trafficking.
Yes,
and that's been exposed for children and for women and so forth. But all of Europe knows that. I've done shows where people have come on and talked about that. But Lindsey Graham went there, and Lindsey Graham has gone there a lot. he likes to go there and spend some time there. And that's, he's been dimed out by the DC gay community for, going too young. So that's one of the things that we know about. So another evil, aspect of, Ukraine and some of these deep state, because they basically use them. They get them hooked on something, and then they use that on them. We saw Lindsey Graham about a year ago in Disney World, walking around with one of those wands or whatever. What's one of those mermaid? So the Little Mermaid, and so he had a wand, and he was like walking around. I heard from people that he was drunk. They didn't have the video, but they took pictures of him, and they use that sometimes to keep them in line. It's like, you're going to do this for us, and so I think he started getting out of line, and that's why they took him out. So heart attack machine. Now the FBI is investigating. So they came out, and said, oh, he had a heart condition and he died suddenly. So he died suddenly from a heart condition that was instigated by a heart attack machine probably. And so the FBI's wander around his. Why would the FBI go there if he's died of natural causes? Why are they doing the investigation? Is that just standard procedure, or I think they're probably looking for something or someone that might have been involved, but that's going to be really hard. The deep state is very, very efficient at killing people.
Well, and right now, as we kind of come to a close, it's a showdown. And right now we're at the showdown, and these people aren't going to go silently off into the night and go like, oh, it's too bad we've been exposed. No, like a rat that's cornered. I mean, a dog that's cornered. I mean, they'll attack. They're in attack mode. And I know Maria Zach is a friend of mine. In fact, I was the one who connected her to Nino through Larry Ballard. And I guess she was on your show. Yeah. And, and she's been in the rooms, like this whole thing that's happening in Georgia. Now, the corruption that's being exposed right now in Georgia. I mean, remember in the election in 2020, seeing the suitcases pulled out from underneath the, the desk when they said the water like broke or something and they had to shut down. And there's been a lot of corruption. What do you know about what's happening in Georgia?
Yeah, Georgia's really, it's like I've had people on, lawyers and, people that try to, get elected at different systems all the way down to school boards. They don't let good people in there. They're pretty much controlling that to a great extent. And China involved in Georgia, politics, so forth, paying people off. They pay people off all over the place to control. That's why we had that's one of the reasons why we had COVID, so that they could, do the mail-in ballots and cheat like crazy and, get Biden elected. So yeah, Georgia is one of the worst offenders. Pretty much every state is to a certain extent. If they did a lockdown, they're corrupt. Every state. Now, some states, eventually, let up, like Florida. I just had a fantastic woman on that is a lawyer that's running for governor, and she's talking about how Rachel Rodriguez. She's talking about how they did grassroots movement, where they came out, lawyers and local people, we the people, they came out. They went right in front of the state house, and then they bowed down and said, okay, yeah, we're going to open everything back up. So that's one of the reasons why Florida was one of the only states that opened up, because people got involved. And this is one of the things we have to do. So yeah, Georgia, completely corrupt, being exposed on a massive level, I think, coming up.
We'll look at even, I know Sheila Holm talks about, Georgia, even the name of the state. You look at the Georgia Guidestones, they put up, and that went down July 6th, 2022. I was actually at Maria Zach's event called Nations in Action at the Georgia Tech Conference Center, and Mark Fincham and, Christy Hutcherson and a number of people were there. And I remember on Sunday morning, she asked me, because she knows I'm also in the ministry, we did a few songs and prayed a few prayers. And I felt led, like, let's turn to the Guidestones. Which way is the Guidestones? And it's like, there it is, that way. And so we all turned, and we in the spirit just said, we command you to come down under the authority of the Lord. And the next 3 days later, it came down. Now, Juan told me it was kind of a white hat thing where lasers, and probably was, but all I know is that it came down on George W. Bush's 76th birthday. Is July 6th.
Louis Herms and I and a bunch of other people in like a day or two before that happened, I was in Sarasota speaking at one of his events, and we're going to go up to we're going to bus up to Georgia Guidestones and pray there, just like you guys did, and it went down before we got there. That's amazing. All that energy going into that.
Well, and the God literally, like, because we're spirit led, God like, into the Guidestones, and it did. And so another interesting thing is President Trump just turned 80, and George W. Bush just turned 80. Do you know who else turned 80? Was Sylvester Stallone on July 6th.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I look at times and dates, and God has me research like spiritual map areas and things.
Very good. Very good.
And so it was Sylvester Stallone, the whole thing with the 50-year anniversary of Rocky, actually, that came out. And so God is going to take back Hollywood. These deep state people. In fact, 20 years ago, I go, why does it have to take so long? 20 years ago, God said to me one morning, I woke up and he said to me, I want you to build a studio to rival Disney and call it Destiny. And I said, like, wow, I don't know how to do that, nor do I really want to. God uses people that really don't know what they're doing. Right. And then he gets the credit. But then Destiny and Disney have the same alphabetical letters, but Destiny is a T, which stands for the cross. So now this film called The Prodigal, all about Lonnie, which there was the Jesus Revolution movie that came out 3 years ago. But now we're going into pre-production on this film. And I'm telling you, God said the greatest movies have yet to be released. We're at a showdown time. And just like Elijah and the prophets of Baal, which they were, sacrificing these children to Molech and Asherah and all this stuff, God does the showdown of Mount Carmel, and all these prophets of Baal were destroyed. But then afterward, Michael, he wanted to die because Jezebel was the one that was tormenting all these spirit of seduction. And so we're in a showdown time that it's going to go down, just like Disney. There's been a lot of corruption in Disney, as you can see. And probably know. Lastly, what do you know about, like, you see these big celebrities? Most of these people that have become really famous, A-listers, so to speak, most of them have somehow taken the deal. Most all of them have taken the deal. There's some good ones. What do you know anything about that?
Well, that's something that Craig Lund has talked about. He said that to get to the higher places in Hollywood, they have to either do a sacrifice of one of their close loved ones, or they have to have one of their children do the sex change. So that's why you see so many sex changes in Hollywood. And then the other ones are doing the sacrifice and, partaking of the adrenochrome and, the flesh of the children and so forth. So this is, being exposed on a massive level. And that's some of the stuff that Craig Lund was talking about in his book, his faction book, where
Silicon Satan.
Yeah,
well, he told me
they almost took him out and killed him recently. I don't know if you heard about that. I had him on a show a couple of days ago. They swatted him. He was doing a Sean Atwood show, and they swatted him, and he's like, they had to stop the show because he had to deal with the cops. And then he was like out in town. He was coming back, and I don't know the circumstances you want to talk about because he's got to, still go to trial on this. But they got him on a couple of charges. They took him to jail. They wouldn't let him have his medication because, they have to check it or whatever, and it takes time. So he was close to death. And finally, they're like, we don't want you to die on our watch. So they finally hurried things up. He saw the judge, and the judge got him out. $50,000 bail at first, and then it got reduced. He and his wife do a lot of prayer. It's really good. Got it reduced to like $15,000. They were able to get him out. I did a show with him, helped him, raise some money because he's got to get a good lawyer. And so, yeah, it's a tough time for us truthers, sometimes.
Well, and that's why we got to stay the course, fight
Yeah.
the good fight of faith. But yeah, no, Craiglin told me about that. In fact, this is interesting. The writer of my script, the average movie is, and I will close on this. I don't like to go over an hour. The average movie in Hollywood typically takes 12 to 14 years to make. Some a lot less, like Rocky only took a year or so. He happened to see a fight between Muhammad Ali and this unknown kind of boxer named Chuck Wepner that they thought might run two rounds, maybe three, and he went the distance. He went 15 rounds and he even knocked down Muhammad Ali. That's where he got this incentive. Like he wrote the script by hand, like in 3 days. And he literally at an audition just so happened to tell Mr. Chartoff and Winkler, a famous producing agency in Hollywood, about his script. And they sent it over and they loved it, but they wanted to have Ryan O'Neal or one of the main actors of the day. And he held his guns. He said, nope, because I got to play Rocky. And a boxing gym out of Philadelphia said, we'll give you 1.1 million. They think it was mob money, that they were laundering money.
Yeah.
And basically that movie in 76, according to stats that I've read, was up for 10 Academy Awards and it won Best Picture. And it flipped the movie industry because Randy, who worked a lot with James Cameron, told me that all the movies were really dark. Like, look at all the movies now. Like, this is summer blockbusters. What you have, like Deliverance Day, like Spielberg's like propaganda film.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like, really? And so that's what he's going to do.
There's some interesting things in it. I watched it and I was like, yeah, they're trying to release some information, but that's the way they work. They give you a little piece of truth and then they're like throw in a bunch of, mind control stuff.
Yeah, no, there were some interesting parts.
Yeah.
Spielberg's a great director, but remember when at that Golden Globe, when Jimmy, who was the name of that host? He was a comedian. He started calling them all out. Like you started seeing Spielberg's face and Tom Hanks' face, and they're all he goes, I know you're all a bunch of pedophiles, and they're all like just going like, oh my gosh. And this is what we talked about. Nina was talking about this Isaac Cappy.
Right.
I interviewed Liz Crokin back in 2017 at the studio and my studio, and she was talking about all this MK Ultra, and then she started talking about Pizzagate and went like, what? But she talked about Isaac Cappy, and I don't know if you ever watched him. I've since learned because he was taken out. And they tried to say, oh, he committed suicide. He jumped off a bridge. Like, right. Now, he was one of the first truthers that was calling out these guys, Tom Hanks and these people. And so, and that's what Craig Lunn is doing. I mean, he finally got the courage. I mean, not that he wrote the book, but he finally got the courage to speak up. And that's where we have to, as I close, let's put up that flyer for the Open the Heavens. When God spoke to me and he said, we won't shut up to open the heavens. Literally, he had us go to different places to open up the portals over regions to because it's a spiritual battle and a component. And that's why, we fight. We're fighting first in the supernatural realm. And that's what Jesus told his disciples. Hey, we got to pray here. Could you not pray 1 hour? So we can do all the fighting we want if we don't have God's backing behind us. But if God be for us, who can be against us? And so, Michael, I'd love for you guys to come. I mean, Scott McKay might be coming. He was at my last one. So let's just see where this is the beginning. It's a showdown. And Kathy O'Brien told me, Michael, that in Branson, because one of her handlers was Robert Byrd, Senator Robert Byrd, 9-term senator.
Yeah.
And he was fiddler in the Grand Ole Opry, did whatever. And he liked to fiddle with little kids too. And I'm telling you, she told me that Branson was an area that the deep state used. You know what they did is they used the country western bands like Merle Haggard and Charlie Pride and some of these guys that in their shows that they would run in their tour buses, cocaine. And unbelievable. She said Branson was close to Mena, Arkansas. So it was a huge area that the deep state used. So when we're in Branson, what we're going to do is we're going to open the heavens over the region.
Yeah.
And I don't try to fight demons. What I do is I just say Psalm 24, Michael, we say, lift up your heads, O you gates, be lifted up, you ancient doors, let the King of glory come in. And all of a sudden, Jesus comes in and boom, you know what? The enemy has to flee. So no, he does. So anyway, Michael, as we close
I'm laughing because you sound like me. You're a warrior. I love it.
Well, we're not afraid. Listen, I'm not afraid. You can take that down. You can go and get tickets. We do it free because I always don't ever like to charge for the kingdom and for God, but you can get a VIP ticket for only it's $196, but $176. I made it that because it's 1776 was when the true patriots stood up and they were in war for several years. It wasn't that we signed the Declaration and now we're free. No, they had a fight on their hand.
Like 8 or 9 years or something crazy. Yeah.
So Michael, in closing, what would you like to say? What's on your heart? I feel that you being this, this man, this godly man, but also a warrior that's not afraid to die. We can't be afraid to die. That's for sure. But let me tell you this. This is one thing, and then I'm going to give you the last. God spoke to me and he said, tell the men, because God loves men. I will never speak evil of men, because God created them and they are called to be warriors and they're called to be champions. But he said, tell the men that they're not a pimp, a pirate, or a pawn, but a prince and a king. He said, women, you're warriors, you're your warriors. You're holy, not hoes. And they have tried to use pornography. In fact, I heard a podcast I thought was really interesting, an SGT report, that when they want to take over a country, they flood it with pornography because then people start getting addicted. And so now instead of just getting attracted to, like, I heard someone say like a Pamela Anderson, whatever in the day, but then they start going a little younger. And before you know it, you're in this position where you start looking at children. And because you think, who would ever be attracted to like a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, because it's a perversion. And so that's why God looks at you as warriors and princes and kings. And you can be delivered from that. It's a dopamine. I've heard that the dopamine levels, when you actually watch porn, that it can be as addictive as heroin. And so God believes in you, men, and 30% of women now watch porn. And if you think it's just spicing up your sex life, I'm sorry, but whenever you look at whatever, you bond to that. So you're not bonding with your wife or your girlfriend, you're bonding with the image on the screen. And so you got to rise up, men and women, be strong. We got to say no to porn because it's what's fueling the trafficking. And every girl that you buy or you go and watch porn, most of those girls are trafficked. And most of those girls are not doing this willingly. And so, Michael, last word just on anything you'd want to say, because you're a true warrior. I really love you and Tracy Joe, your wife, and really believe in what you guys do. So,
we love you too. And love is the most powerful force in the universe. You can be a warrior with that love, and that's what I've learned. I learned the warrior skills on a level that most people can't comprehend. But the most powerful thing that I ever learned was how to use love. I would say use it, but to connect with love and then send that love out, and that love will absolutely change the environment. And I saw this over and over again. So prayer, directing that love energy and so forth really, really makes a difference. And I always, talk about this at the end of my show. So thanks for giving me an opportunity to do that. Michael, where can people find you on, what's the best place to connect with you? MichaelKJaco.com, and I have a web YouTube channel, Michael Jaco, as well. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Michael. If you guys could share this, I know in Rumble, they've actually kept me, they're unfollowing people. And I'm just telling you, didn't they get bought out like by BlackRock, like 10%? There's some channels that are growing big, but I know that it's like when you talk about trafficking and stuff, and I'm back on YouTube, so I'm starting to grow on YouTube. But nice. I'm just telling you, the Lord said it's not about the views and how many in the pews. He said, just don't stop and you can't lose. That's right. And don't drink the booze either, or hit the snooze. No, you can drink booze if you're not an addict.
I got into a position that one wasn't enough, two was too many. And came a point that God said, you'll never reach your destiny if you don't quit. So I don't think it's wrong to have a glass of wine. But for me, I think we all have to come clean. And I think that we all have our stuff. And I don't throw stones at people. I just say, hey, listen, you can make it. And that's what, as I close out today, those of you who are listening and watching, maybe you have an addiction with porn or booze or, children, maybe you're depressed, maybe you can't get out of bed, whatever it is, that there's no pit too deep that God can't pull you out of. And so I'm hearing this little rhyme. God gives me these rhymes. Michael, I think you heard me at Pastor Dave's church give a rhyme on stage when Lewis had me speak along with you. The Lord said, like, this is freestyle. I just have to make it up as I hear it. The Lord said, it's not a crime to rhyme. It's actually a sign, and it's divine. But the Lord said, today I'm speaking to you and I'm telling you to shine, because you are my fine wine that I created on this earth, that when you came to this planet to be birthed, you were made to be great. And God said, I'm opening up a gate for you now to go through. You can turn away from the demonic realm and you can come into the kingdom of heaven and be at the helm of greatness. But God said, you just have to call out to me, the Lord, and I will set you free. And I, the Lord, will give you the key of liberty and justice for all. And all you got to do is say, yes, I'll answer the call, and become a fighter for the kingdom, a fighter for light. And I will now rise up my kingdom, and they will unite, and they will shine, and they will come into a new paradigm of glory to tell my story. So just stay the course. I'm your source. And you just need to go all the way, because by the blood of Jesus, I did pay. I already paid your bail. You can't fail. And you're going to have a whale of a tail when you see what I'm going to do. Get ready. It's a time of breakthrough. So God, I thank you for everybody watching. I thank you, God, for the ones that, Lord, I feel like they're so low. They've done some really dark stuff. But God, I know that you just said, go and sin no more. To the woman that was caught in adultery, go and sin no more. And if you fall, just keep getting up again, because a baby never walks perfect. He always is, pretty soon they walk. And I thank you that everybody watching this show is redeemed, restored, and renewed as long as they turn it over to you. In Jesus' name, amen. 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 Well, thank you, Michael. Thanks for coming on. God bless you, my friend. We'll be in touch. Tell Tracy Joe, we love you, Tracy Joe. She's going to listen. So God bless you. I'll reach out about the event in Branson. And you guys, please, you can go to my website, mericrouley.com, and we'll have the flyer up there as well as the tickets. And just you can go visit my site and really share this show with others. And people, please subscribe and follow and share it with 5 people. And that's what it is. Sharing is caring. So God bless you guys. Well, see you soon. We hope to see you in Branson. God bless. Thanks for coming on, Mike.